In this video, we're going to continue building our main menu. So I've got Godot open and we're currently on a blank scene. So let's open up our main menu scene by coming down to the file system and double clicking on the main menu. So you can see from last lesson, we've still got our background set up. And what we're going to do in this lesson is set up some fonts, so set up some text. So if we come up into the node system and we select the main node or the main menu node and then click on the plus to add our font. Now the actual font we want is a text font. So if we just type in the word text, you'll notice that several text fonts come up. So we have this rich text label and we have a text editor. The one we're going to be using is the rich text label. Now note, because I've used it before, I can actually load it from two places. So I can double click on this or this. So let me just show you how this one works. So if I double click on this rich text label, that will load up here. Now let's just double click on this again and let's give it a name. So we're going to call this title text and then click away. So when we click back on the title text, you'll notice that on the right hand side we have all of these properties. Now it can be quite fiddly, but I'm going to walk you through each and every one of these, or the ones we need. So the first one is this big text box. If we click in here and we can give our game a title. Now I'm going to call mine My 2D Platformer. Okay, and then click away, and you'll notice that the text still remains relatively small, and that's because we have to move the box out and make it bigger, and we can move this anywhere in this area. Now as you can see, the text doesn't look particularly good at the moment, and that's because Godot requires you to upload your own custom fonts. So the best way of doing this is if you head over to a website like defont.com, there's absolutely hundreds of free fonts that you can download. So say for instance you chose this one, you can just click on the download button and this will download to your downloads folder. So I've gone ahead of time and I've downloaded one called Hot Sauce, which I quite like, and it's now ready to go. And you might need several fonts for this, but I'm just going to use one just to demonstrate. So head on back over to Godot, and if you're using several fonts, you're probably going to want a new folder. And we're going to call it fonts and press OK. So all of the fonts that we're going to use are going to go in here. So I'm going to grab my hot sauce from my downloads folder and I'm just going to drop it into the fonts folder. And now you can see it's there and it's ready to use. So now we've got that set up, we're going to come back over to the settings. Make sure you've got this one clicked and you can see the hot sauce or whichever font you used. And we're going to scroll down to the one that says custom fonts, and we're going to drill open this arrow here and we're going to come down to the bottom one that says normal font and just tick it. Now this next part is a two-part process, so we're going to click on this arrow and we're going to say new dynamic font, and then we're going to click on the arrow again and we're going to say edit. Now from here you get a new menu and we're going to go to the font one, and this where it says empty and font data is where we're going to load our font. So if we click the font, drag and drop, it will appear. Now it's still a bit small, I mean you can see that it's kind of working. Now I did have to just reshuffle this, I had to make this a little bigger. I know it's a bit random, but if I hadn't have done that it kind of squashes itself. Okay, so now we've got that, let's make it a bit bigger. So we can come up to settings and we can change the font size. So I'm going to do 64 for this one and then press enter. And once again, we just need to readjust this until our title is in there. So 64 is probably still a little too small for what I want. So let's go something like 120. And once again, just redo that. Move it to somewhere that you want. Okay, so we're happy with the font. The only other thing that we can do with the fonts is change the color. Now in order to change the color we have to go back to the main menu, and there's a couple of ways of doing that. You can click on this or you can click on the back arrow. So if I just click on the back arrow, it brings us back to our first one, and we can close the font menu, and this time we're going to go to custom colors, and the one we're going to want is this default color, and the minute you turn it on it goes black. If you want to change the color you can to any color you want. Now I tend to stick with very pastel type colours, but you can do whatever you want, that's absolutely fine. So let's just go for a nice little grey, darker grey, there we go. Okay, so that's how you add font to your game.